Welcome to Suthichai Live English. My guest today, Kun Johan Patanothai. He's on the road all the time. It's very difficult to catch him. So luckily, I can get him to talk today about, what he has been hearing around the world about Thailand. Hello, Joe. Hi.
สวัสดีครับ Hello everyone. I'm Joe.
So where have you been? Where have you been in the past few weeks?
Oh, I've been a lot to China, all over China, many places, but also Europe and in Thailand, of course.
So what exactly is your role at the moment?
So I help large corporates and every now and then also governments with their cross-border investments or cross-border strategic moves. It might not be necessarily be an investment, might be a merger, might be expansion, or a sale. They want to get rid of fed up of a country, say I'm leaving here now, I'm going somewhere else, going to India, I'm going to, and I help them with that.
So you're a consultant on all aspects of business, international business.
Yes, exactly, cross-border.
Cross-border. So how has it been in the past year or so after COVID? Has the world recovered?
Incredibly busy, actually. It's recovered and it's really moving fast. Of course, my business was a bit difficult to do during COVID because it's hard to do cross-border mergers and acquisitions if you can't cross borders.
Yes.
Although I did do a lot of crossing of borders at the time. We were lucky in that we had a team on the ground in China, and we could be of incredible use to our clients because we were able to see what really was happening. There was zero visibility from the outside of what was going on in China, and we had teams on the ground. And I spent a lot of time there. Most of my time I spent in China.
In China.
Well, a lot of that I spent in quarantine. I did 7 quarantines in all.
Quarantines?
I had 7 quarantines.
Really? What?
Yes. Not counting ones at home. These are like quarantines in hotels or, quarantine centers.
And how was the experience, the quarantines?
Well, you find out things about yourself. Like I actually realized that, I was quite okay with being alone.
Soul searching.
Okay. It was okay. 3 weeks alone was quite okay for me. And I tried it different ways. I was once with my kids and my mom. I was once with my wife.
Yes.
I was alone a couple times. I was with my brother and my father once. It was good. We had a big family quarantine once all together. In Phuket. We had we had different types of experiences.
So it has been quite an experience in the past few years. Have the wars in Ukraine, Gaza affected international business so far?
Ukraine, I felt it very clearly. I think Ukraine had led to a Europe which was very much more disengaged from non-core priorities. I visited Europe very soon after the Ukraine invasion. Firstly, most people hadn't believed that it would happen.
Yeah.
And even though there were troops gathered on the border, everyone was going, it's just for positioning. However, I think what then happened, what pursued after that, what ensued was the fact that Europe disengaged. Europe became just solely very short-term, short-distance focused. It was impossible to have, conversations on China. I was going now. The Thais were very receptive on China. They were interested in engaging with China. There's a lot to be done with China in today's age. I think the countries that are able to engage intelligently with China are those who are going to come out on top of this whole, transition. This whole transition to a new, economic setup that a lot of countries are going to require, be it, for example, in a clean energy transition, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to want to, meet carbon targets,
Mhm.
you're gonna have to engage with China to do it intelligently. Otherwise, you're just everything is gonna cost twice as much.
Mhm.
If you're gonna want to engage with this new kind of reshifting
Right.
of the supply chain out
Mhm.
out of China,
Mhm.
well, you're gonna have to engage with China for that to happen with you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that countries that engage intelligently with China today are going to be the winners of the future.
What are some of the European countries that have engaged China so far?
Oh, not many, not many. You have three groups.
Yeah.
You have the group of those who are pretty much just anti-China. They say, "Oh, China, you support the war in Ukraine. Well, you support the Russians."
Yeah.
How true that is debatable.
Yeah.
But you have a China which is anti-Europe in their view, and so we're going to be anti-you, and that's the first group. You have the second group, which is pretty much just pro-China, happily, and as we can see with the Hungarian visit reception of
Right.
President Xi Jinping recently.
Yeah.
And you have the third group, which is kind of plays a bit both sides. So you have the French, the German. They're a bit
Right.
on both sides. They're not squarely following
Mhm.
the purely anti-Chinese stance of the US,
Mhm.
and in Europe, the ones probably most adamant on that stance probably
Yep.
the Brits. I think most squarely kind of
Where do,
anti-China lead.
where do the Brits stand?
I think the Brits quite close to the Americans.
Yeah, I know.
The French and the Germans a bit more in the middle.
Right. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But these things, the Brits have more issues with China than other countries. They have Hong Kong as well.
Sure.
They have an additional point of contention, which kind of means that their stance is always a little bit more complicated than the rest of Europe.
Yeah. And from
And
China's,
but in good times, they've had really really close relationships.
Mhm.
So this is not a permanent thing, as much as it would be, say, for the US.
Right.
In the UK, you have an ability to turn things around more than you would as
Right.
Americans, but they definitely within Europe itself stand on the more negative side, of the stance, versus the Hungarians, or even like the Serbs, very much more pro. But you don't have to be pro-China. I'm not advocating that countries need to be pro-China. I'm just advocating countries, even those who are not pro-China, to engage more intelligently with China, because there are things, regardless of your stance, pro, anti, or in the middle. There are ways that you can engage intelligently, and what we are trying to do is we're not in any way in the business of political stance. We're in the business of whatever your political stance or your business stance. We're going to try and make your engagement with China more intelligent.
When you say engage intelligently, what exactly do you mean?
Well, take what China has to offer and make the most of it without giving up what it is that you don't want to give up.
Yeah. And
like in the case of actually, Thailand's doing rather well out of this.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
We're engaging China in ways that actually make China useful and helpful to us.
Yes.
We're aware that there are issues. When there are issues, we address them.
Yeah.
Of course, these, there are always points of tension over time. But by and large, I think our engagement with China is a healthy one. It's positive. It's led to a better sentiment in both countries towards one another.
Yes. And from China's viewpoint, looking at Europe as a whole, what is China's approach? Also selectively engage intelligently as well?
Less so. I think China likes to engage. They like four things generally in the way they engage.
Yeah.
When they select engagement countries, and and this is overall. I'm not talking just purely politics.
Yes.
Because the political economy as well, the businesses as well.
Yes.
They like friendly. First and foremost, they really just like engaging with people who are friendly with them.
Friendly, yeah.
They like big is always better.
Yeah. The bigger the better. Yeah.
Right. They like rich.
Rich.
Right. Because they need to sell things.
Yeah.
That for them, a lot of their partners
Yes.
are not very rich.
No. Yeah.
The countries that are closest to them tend to be very poor.
Yeah.
And then finally, they really like
Stability.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in Thailand, they used to take issue with our supposed lack of stability. But now they've realized that actually this lack of stability is actually quite stable. We're very good at being in.
Right.
We're very good at that. Changing.
We're
very stable in that way.
We are consistently unstable. So that is stability, right?
That's right.
So traveling around the world, talking to people about Thailand, what's the picture of Thailand on the world screen at the moment?
Good, very good. I think we're friendly to all sides. And sure, there are some issues that the Western European countries had at one point for our supposed friendliness with Russia, but I think that's been pretty much explained away.
And at the same time, we have a new government, and the Prime Minister has been flying around the world to many countries, China included, Europe, is going to Italy and France. How is the Thailand's chances? How are the chances of getting more foreign investment, and what should we do? Have we done enough? What else should we do?
I think we're going to have a very good chance at engaging with both European, Western world and China going forward. Our proposition is good. It's strong. It's not the strongest. We could benefit from a couple more FTAs, which we're working on. But by and large, it's doing very well. I think we do have some issues lingering, which we really do need to address. I think education is one of them. Yeah. The problem that we're going to have with language skills. This can be solved very quickly, but we need to solve it. It's something that we can change. In 3-4 years we can improve on that, but we need to do it. Secondly, our whole immigration policy is awful. It's the worst that I've ever seen. Really? There is no worse. I mean, I've lived in many countries, and Thailand is by far the country with the worst kind of facility for foreigners working in the country. We're quite good with foreigners visiting and for tourism, but we're terrible for foreigners working here. Yeah. I mean, you have to go to every year to do the renewal of the work permit. Every year you have to go in person. And it takes half a day every time. I mean, all my Chinese friends, all my foreign friends, always like, it's the bane of their life that one time in the year that they have to go to the immigration, Chang Watana, for that half a day, that they have to do every year.
Yeah. It used to be they had to leave the country.
Yes.
To get that renewal. But then you were talking about bureaucracy, basically, right?
Yes, and also that's for the people working here. Also for the companies coming to work here, it's not very streamlined. It could be a lot better. The whole BOI process could be done much more, much faster. And I'm not even talking about the foreign business.
No.
Because that is, something that we really need to review.
Well, we've been looking at Vietnam, Indonesia being more competitive than Thailand in the past few years.
I don't see that. I don't see it.
No, really?
So I think they're cheaper. Yes, they have more resources. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in terms of, and so if that is what you seek, then absolutely that makes sense. You know, if you need cheap labor, then for sure go to Vietnam. If you need resources, then absolutely go to Indonesia.
Yeah.
But don't do that if you seek, you know, efficiency or productivity, or, you know, like, sure, their electricity cost is better than ours when they have electricity.
Yeah, when they have electricity, yeah.
So, you know, we have, it's a very different proposition. You know, you're used to working in China and you want to move out and get a similar experience of working in China. Of course, we're not as hardworking, you know, so you're not going to get as hardworking, but, you know, but the same kind of good infrastructure, good lifestyle, you know, things like that. Safety, you know, you can get insurance with it. All these kind of the whole package that you have in China. Well, Thailand is the place that is going to the most resemble your experience in China, and, you know, at a slightly lower cost, so we're less efficient from your cost.
Well, there are talks about China plus one, meaning that some companies which used to be based in China are now diversifying to Vietnam, to Indonesia more, and some of them may come to Thailand. Is that happening really?
That was a policy that was pre-COVID, actually.
Yeah.
Companies, after the kind of decoupling efforts from the US, a lot of companies started worrying about, well, we need to have a plus one, you know, just in case China does no longer work. And so a lot of companies, this was an initiative by companies. So the plus one could have been anywhere. Didn't have to be
In ASEAN.
you know, Vietnam or ASEAN, or it could be India, for example.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, a lot of companies like Apple, I think their plus one is India. However, what really kicked it into high gear was COVID. So they just had that on the back burner. Everyone had a plus one just in the back pocket, just in case. Yeah. What really kicked it into high burner mode was the fact that when COVID hit, people could no longer travel in and out of China.
That's right.
The Chinese were not giving visas to the wives or the husbands of the executives, and which is nuts. Well, I the children. So I don't know what they were thinking. They were going like, "Oh, you can work here, but you have to get a divorce."
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what was it that they were thinking, and what was the difficulty, really, honestly, of giving a visa to someone's wife or husband, or children?
Yeah.
Why was it? Would it be that much more difficult or risky? I really don't understand what they were thinking. So what happened was a lot of people then kind of triggered that plus one immediately.
And it's still on at the moment?
Well, it's done. In many cases, they've left China and they went to that plus one country, be it Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Thailand, you know, a lot in Thailand. A lot of Chinese actually like coming to Thailand. The Chinese also have been exiting. Yeah. Because, you know, two reasons really. One is, you know, they see the economic opportunities in Southeast Asia are now better than they are in China. Yes. Well, Southeast Asia as a whole is growing quite strong, quite well. The second problem is that their feeling is, you know, they want to in any case, even if the growth is still okay in China, they want to really have a bigger market outside, and they feel that they could better do that with people outside.
So how is China's economic health doing? Your latest survey, is China really recovering from its economic woes?
Well, there is two Chinas.
Yeah, two Chinas.
There are two Chinas right now. There is the traditional China, which is anything relating to real estate,
Mm-hmm.
steel,
Mm-hmm.
cement,
Mm-hmm.
all these industries, white goods, anything that basically touches a building.
Okay.
And that China, right? That China was the China that had benefited greatly
Mm-hmm.
and was drawn by the real estate
Mm-hmm.
boom over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That China is doing poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's the real estate is still decreasing at a 10% a year every year, and it's been doing so for many years.
Yes.
And that's a direct result of the real estate.
Mm-hmm.
If they fix the real estate woes,
Mm-hmm.
then that will improve.
Mm-hmm.
But as of now, that China, which by the way includes also banks, because
Okay.
banks are highly lent. So it's that a big part of the economy
Mm-hmm.
is doing poorly.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also new China, which is very exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
AI,
Yeah.
EVs, electric vehicles,
Yeah.
right? Battery tech,
Mm-hmm.
big data,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
computers, online sales, e-commerce, all that is doing phenomenally well.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about both Chinas, both the old and the new, is there are opportunities to invest in both.
Uh-huh.
Old China is also incredibly compelling as an investment proposition today because it's cheap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can buy a state-owned bank, one of the four big state-owned banks.
Right.
I don't know, they're trading at 0.4 times book, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
7, 8, 9% yield, dividend yield.
Yeah.
State-owned bank.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
What the big four.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheap. It may not be great. It may not be growing well. It's still growing, by the way.
I know.
Most of this old China is still profitable and it's still growing. It's just less profitable than before, and it's growing slower than before. But it's still growing and it's still profitable. But it's not as good as before, but it's also very cheap.
Mm-hmm. How does the Chinese government manage the two Chinas?
They are definitely hugely promoting New China.
Mm-hmm.
They just had the work plan, the government work plan, outlined 700 billion yuan for support to all these new industries.
Yeah.
Medtech, new materials, AI, big data, EVs. 700 billion in support for that. So it's quite a strong, monetary support for these sectors.
Yeah. So,
and EVs, the Chinese EVs are phenomenal. I've driven. They're better than any other EVs I've driven. Chinese ones are fantastic. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know when that happened. I mean, all of a sudden, just a few years ago, I was in China. It was during COVID, I think. All of a sudden, I was staying a lot in China during COVID, and then one day I noticed, hang on a minute, these EVs are really good looking.
Yeah.
This one looks like a Porsche. This one looks like a Mercedes.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they got the designers from these places.
Right.
But they look beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Really drive well. I had a chance to drive a few.
Yeah. And that phenomenon is now happening in Thailand. The Chinese EVs are all here competing fiercely and cutting prices like hell.
Yes, I've been wanting to buy one, and I've been telling myself, wait, it's gonna get cheaper.
Yeah.
It's gonna get cheaper.
But then how does Thailand handle this? Because we are going to be just consumers. How do we, somehow learn, absorb the technology, and create our own economy that, that would not be based only upon being consumers?
Well, that would be us dealing with the Chinese intelligence.
Yes.
China today is willing to give technology transfer in exchange for market share. Effectively, what the offer they gave Western countries
Yes.
way back when,
Yes.
in the 80s and 90s, back in those days, it was pretty crude. They'll have meetings in the 80s. They'll have meetings with all these German, Japanese, American people, big industrialists, and they record it. They have a tape recorder in the room. Okay. And they record it, and they'll say, "Look, this is what we need from you. We want technology transfer. In 20 years' time, we'll give you the market for 20 years, and then you get technology. But then we transfer the technology, and then with that tape recorder, they'll then go and play it to the other guy, and they say, "Hey, Philips just agreed to give me technology transfer. Aren't you going to do it?" And so that was negotiating these big deals with China in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
Okay. But a lot of the technology transfer that China did get, I'm not saying all of it. There might have been other more kind of sneaky ways that they have managed to get technology, but I would say the majority of the technology transfer that the Chinese managed to get from the West was through these means. It was through what they had the scheme called market in exchange for technology.
Market in exchange.
Give me market, I give you the technology after a certain number of years, and it was never the latest technology. Right?
Never the latest technology.
The West always thought, well, in 20 years' time they can peak data technology because we're going to have the better one by that time.
Right.
But a lot of this was going on.
But then,
and now they're willing to do the same with countries in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
I've been discussing with a number of Chinese technology companies, and they're perfectly happy doing that. So us engaging with them intelligently would mean we, at the end of this, get something out.
Yeah. But there's so many Chinese brands here in Thailand. When this kind of negotiation starts, Chinese represented by the government people or the private sector, and
not necessarily. Very rarely, in fact. Only on the mega projects do they ever really government comes and holds the hand. It's normally just the corporate. Of course, they're getting directions from the government if they're state-owned. But only if they're state-owned. If they're private, a lot of these EV companies, I'd say half of them are private.
So we have to negotiate individually with each of the Chinese brand.
Yeah, we say, look, you come in, you want it, we want technology.
But on our Thai side, as you know, the government is not that united or that unified, and the private sector and the government may be at a loss as to how do we handle the Chinese on this.
Well, I'll buy a tape recorder. maybe you have one lying around.
No,
you no longer use.
No, you just need your mobile phone. You don't need a real tape recorder anymore. Yeah. But are we good at that?
Basically, they need to know. I think that the most important thing is they need to know that that's how they need to negotiate.
Yeah.
They need to ask for it. If you don't ask for it, they are not going to volunteer.
Wow, really? We have to take the initiative. Huh?
Take the initiative, ask for it, and I found that they're very happy putting it on the table.
So we will have to understand how competitive the Chinese are in Thailand, and then we have to selectively negotiate with the big guys, right?
Yep.
Not easy. I don't think we, on the Thai side, we are that qualified yet. So you need to come back to be based in Thailand to help.
Yeah, no problem. I'll spend more time here.
Okay. Well, finally, just would like your summary on Thailand's competitiveness in this new era of, you mentioned that we have not cheap labor anymore, but at the same time, we are an aging society. and our economy is growing at a very low rate. What would be some of our attractions, and what new attractions should be built?
I think our attractions. I mentioned, I mentioned earlier one of them, which was, we have a level of, a level of productivity and activity and sophistication similar to what a lot of these corporates would have experienced in China.
Yeah.
So we have online payments, we have, all the things that you expect in China, we have.
Yeah, yeah.
So, including some of the, the less salient things like, inefficiencies, the petty corruption and things like that. So, but it's first of all, that's the first important thing. You're not going to get surprised coming to Thailand.
No.
It's going to work well. And people are friendly, and they're not as hardworking, but again, we're cheaper. Hardworking is not the most important thing, I think.
No.
No. It's overrated. Especially
work smart, not work hard, right?
Yeah, and it's compared to Indonesia, compared to Vietnam, we're much cleaner.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we also have. With the Chinese, this trust of being very high, quality friends.
Yeah.
We might not agree on most things, but we're very high quality friends.
Right.
The third thing is we share that same thing with the West, and that is a very useful trait between both sides. I mean, you need a partner which is good with both sides for it to be useful.
Yeah, that's true.
Our advantage to the Chinese is that we're close to the West, and very few countries are that close to both sides.
Yeah,
and I think that's an important trait for Thailand. Education is a problem, but that needs improving. But by and large, people are pretty well educated. Again, comparing to the other nations around. So stable, very stable. We have low unemployment, low inflation. So I think these are when considering competitiveness on a global scale, this is what matters. I mean, we need to improve. We must improve the education. We must improve the facility of doing business. We must improve our FTAs, make it easier for people to export tax-free, because that's the free lunch that we're not eating, that other people are eating.
The free lunch.
Free. I mean, we got to give up things, but over the longer term, that becomes cheaper and cheaper. It's a ever decreasing price lunch. And lunch gets cheaper every day.
It gets cheaper every day. So we have not taken advantage of that.
No, enough. We have FTAs, but not enough.
So thank you very much, Joe. And you are on the road again?
I am going to Beijing on Wednesday.
Wednesday. How often do you go to China?
Oh, I spend about maybe 40% of my time in China.
40%?
Yeah, but all over China. I have a base in Beijing. I have an office there. I have a home there.
Wow.
But I travel to Hangzhou, to Yunnan, to Sichuan, to Guangdong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, to Beijing, all over.
And you have clients around the country in China?
Yes, around the country.
Really?
Yes. Beijing is only 4% of the national GDP.
Beijing 4% only.
Yeah. So a lot of China is outside of Beijing, as opposed to Bangkok, which is really the center of everything in Thailand.
Yes.
Beijing is only 4%. It's a center in some areas, like politically and financially. In cases, Beijing is really there. Well, everyone is there, but actually, we have a lot of China, which is outside of just Beijing. and Beijing Steel and Beijing Shanghai. Shanghai is also only 4.
Yeah, yeah.
China is extremely scattered.
I know. Finally, I have to ask you about TikTok. What's going to happen with TikTok between China and America?
I think TikTok is a fair enough concern for America.
Yeah, fair concern.
Yeah, fair concern. The problem with TikTok is that it really has the ability to change the way people think and vote. And that is a matter of concern for the Americans. That's not what they're going after. They're going after the fact that it's Chinese owned.
Yeah.
I think the risk is just as great if you were an American owned company. The fact that a company has the ability to change the way people think and vote should be a matter of concern to anyone. The fact that they're going after TikTok first, I hope it's just the first of many, is because it's Chinese owned.
Yeah.
Right. But a country cannot, give to a third party its ability to influence, what people think and how they, their opinion one way or another. That's not the argument in America now. The argument is all about, it's Chinese owned, it's a Communist Party owned.
Right.
I think so they're going after, only TikTok now, but they need to be looking at all companies, Twitter, Instagram, or anyone who has this ability.
Yeah.
Influence.
Yeah. Including Facebook, including X, Elon Musk.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And just because TikTok happens to be Chinese owned, well, fine, go after them first, and hopefully it'll be a template about and I hope what they're not going to do is going to end up being owned by X or something like that. Then it'll be even worse. Worse than because then you have this ability to morph public opinion in the hands of even fewer people.
Yeah, I know.
So I think they're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, and I hope they come out with the right outcome. Because it's dangerous. Whoever is the owner, you need to break it up. You need to regulate it.
That's right.
You need to have a diverseness of opinions. And by the way, breaking it up doesn't help if everyone uses the same algorithm.
That's right. Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Hope to talk to you again soon, and be safe at traveling and enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. ติดตามสุทธิชัยไลฟ์กับผมทุกวันเช้าสายบ่ายเย็นมีเรื่องร้อนเรื่องวิเคราะห์เรื่องสัมภาษณ์เรื่อง Exclusive ต้องที่นี่ที่เดียวครับไปติดตามผมใน Facebook 2 เพจสุทธิชัยยุ่นกับสุทธิชัยไลฟ์และอย่าลืม YouTube ครับ YouTube ไปกด Subscribe ที่สุทธิชัยไลฟ์กด Subscribe แล้วกดกระดิ่งเตือนคุณทันทีที่สุทธิชัยไลฟ์มาในมือถือคุณนอกนั้น Twitter ไปกดติดตามและ TikTok ครับ TikTok ล่าสุดนั้นสามารถที่จะถ่ายทอดสดสุทธิชัยไลฟ์ให้ทุกท่านติดตามได้เช่นกันสุทธิชัยไลฟ์ anywhere anytime สุทธิชัยไลฟ์คือเพื่อนที่เล่าข่าววิเคราะห์ข่าวสามารถทำให้ท่านทันข่าวทุกวินาทีจากนี้ไปครับ